Got it.
Hi everyone, it's Kylie here from GF Oats Australia. Thank you for joining us. And this is part of the next edition in our Winter Wellness series. And I have invited a fabulous lady that I know, Anika. I'm not going to tell you anything about her because I'll ask her and she can tell you. But at the onset, Anika, thank you very much for joining us and agreeing to this little game of mine. But I know everybody's going to love what you have to say. So can you, Anika, introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do and where you're based?
Okay. Well, thank you first, because I love the idea of this. I love winter and I love wellness. So I am an organic farmer down in the Lockyer Valley. I've been doing that for about nearly 8 years. And I'm also a women's coach and an Ayurvedic transformation coach in training. So that's what I'm studying on the side. And I also have two small kids, although they're not that small anymore, 10 and 8, who roam around me like little wildlings.
That's absolutely awesome. I love what you do. And we met at the farmers markets in Toowoomba. So that's one of the avenues you sell your produce. Where else do you sell your produce?
That's my little baby, the farmers market, because
Okay.
when we had came up with the idea of farming, so we're not farmers. It was all new. We were novices. We didn't know what we we're doing. I put my hand up and said, look, I really want to sell affordable organic produce because in my heart, I believe everyone should have access to it. So that was my big thing to do for the farm. I really wanted to bring produce to the farmers market. So that's what I do. But we have pallet loads that get sent to Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. And they go to wholesalers and then it gets distributed out to the retailers who buy from them. Locally, I know Market Organics is one other place,
Yep.
and Mr. Organic in Toowoomba
Yep.
as well.
Yep. That's fantastic. And because I know that since we've had COVID over the last 18 months, a lot of people have turned to organic. But just give people a little bit of an understanding about what are the true challenges about growing organic, and that's what people are paying for.
I guess I've never grown conventionally, so I can't compare so much as in from an experience perspective. But what we do is we work with the biodiversity of our farm, which means you have to really work with nature. It's not about manipulating and controlling nature. We don't have a chemical input that can stop and change things as you need it. So when you're growing sustainably, things take a lot longer for you to establish something. So, for example, about 4 years ago, we had a diabolical loss in our sweet potato, which basically nearly took us under because it was our only crop. We'd just started, we had no income, and what happened was the whole crop got eaten away by what we call nematode, and that's based on your soil nutrition not being lush enough for the crop. So, in order for us to bring that soil up, it took us 4 years. So we couldn't use that land for 4 years. And we still to this day cannot use land except for a 4-year cycle. If you're growing conventionally, you do have the input that you can put in that can kill and change things in your environment. And therefore you can keep using that soil over and over and over. You just keep using chemicals that will change the environment so you can grow something, which is not something that we do as organic farmers. We work with nature, and you cannot control and manipulate nature, and that's what we've learned. You definitely think that you can at times, but nature knows better, and nature will just cut you down if it's not right for the whole system. So also things like weeding. For example, we don't use weedicides, we don't use chemicals like that. So we literally hand weed. So at the beginning of the year, our sweet potato crop, we had, I think it was probably up to 10 people a day from 6 till 12 weeding for a 3-week period. So it cost us tens of thousands of dollars just to weed. So I think that's where some of the expenses come from. Is that what you're asking? So
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
the price
Yep.
is different? Yeah, so that's a contributing factor. We also have a certifying body that we have
Yep.
to comply to,
Yep.
which is basically a whole rule of regulations proving that the life of the whole produce has been grown in accordance with organic standards, which means you have to know the exact life of every single seed and everything that's happened to it from the day that you plant it to the day that it gets taken to your plate. So there's a full traceability. We have to pay for that certification. And also we do have inputs as well, but they're just all certified organic. So we use a lot of minerals, so liquid minerals, they are right up there, very expensive, but the plant needs nourishment, and you can't just not feed it. You won't get a good crop if you don't feed it. So we feed them very well.
We're certified with GF Oats. Our product, as you know, currently is still coming from farmers in North America, but when we bring the certified organic in, we have to certify organic, the certification again, if that makes sense. So it's not anywhere as much detailed as you, but we're certified with ACO. So which body are you? Because there are several, so people know that there are several bodies. Who are you certified with?
We're with ACO, but we moved over to Southern Cross because it's run by two men who have come from a farming perspective, and their whole ethos was we want to let farmers do what farmers do. And so they made it very streamlined from a paperwork perspective, and that was very attractive. So we moved over to them.
That's very good information to know.
I highly recommend.
Yeah, because we just got the email yesterday saying that our organic certification is booked in for the 17th of September. So we take a little breath and go, but we're a few years down the track. So by the grace of God, I think, you know, we feel as though we're a bit better prepared every single year.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. Same. Absolutely.
So for those who are watching this live or on the replay, pop in the comments below whether you are growing any veggies at the moment, and tell us what you are growing, which segues me into saying, what crops are you growing at the moment, Anika, and what's in season?
So what we've got are sugar snaps and snow peas. We do have a greenhouse which allows us to grow things out of season. So we have cherry tomatoes in there, and we have gold sweet potato and purple sweet potato, and we have some lemon trees as well, which are new. That's what we grow in winter, but in the Lockyer Valley region, you'll see a lot of broccoli, cabbage, all your root vegetables, celery, cauliflower. Did I say cauliflower? So and I guess when we're talking about things being in season, it depends what people call their local environment. So some people might just refer to Australia being local, which means there's so many microclimates, and then there's also your local like 100-kilometre radius. So even us in the Lockyer Valley, we grow very different to what you would in Stanthorpe or Darling Downs, which is to me quite fascinating because up the range you can grow broccoli close to summer where there's no chance that we could grow that, and we're so close. We're only 40 k's away. So depending on where you shop and where you buy your produce, you can probably get lots of different things. But for us in the valley, we're big in the winter production, and the summer production falls back quite a fair bit because it's so hot. And
I guess one of the great things about if people go to their local farmers market is most of the produce there will be seasonal, because that's what people are growing around the region and that's what they bring to sell. So if people are unsure about what's seasonal, that's a good place to start.
It is a good place to start, but with the farmers market, you do have to be really careful because farmers markets have merged into a retail outlet for a lot of resellers. So if you are particularly interested in this, it's good to come with a few questions on hand and ask the store holders questions, because this is something that irks me a lot. There's a lot of misleading things that happen at farmers markets, and people think that they're A, buying from a farmer, B, buying organically, because they're actually not. There's not a lot of transparency. So if you are interested, very interested in what you're eating and what is local and what's organic or chemical free, or all the terms people use, ask questions. Don't just believe what you're seeing on signs. That would be my point.
And for those people who aren't sure about the organic, non-organic, what would be a quick wrap up of why would somebody choose to pay that extra bit for organic as opposed to the non-organic produce?
Well, I think it depends on people's values largely.
Yeah,
So a lot of people are really interested in the ecosystem and the environment, and their choice to eat organic is purely from an environmental perspective. And then you have other people who have it from a health perspective or a combination of both. Some people are very keen to not go near any chemicals, so they search and look for certified organic because
yeah,
they know that that product has been through the whole organic process.
yeah.
And then there's other people who use words like spray free, chemical free, organically grown. You're still allowed to do that in Queensland. However, in Victoria, in the farmers markets, it's actually not allowed. You are not allowed to use the word organic unless you are certified, which I love because it's transparency, it's black and white. I do know, and I absolutely respect that there's lots of people who grow without using chemicals, like your regen farmers. I support that and I agree with that. It just has to be transparent because there's
Yeah,
so many people who throw the word organically grown out there. They use the word spray free, and spray free means that they didn't spray something, but what if they put fertilizer down? What if,
yeah,
like, what's the history of the land? Like, is the soil tested? Like, it really depends on other people's interest on what they're eating and their own values and why. But the certification note, that just gives people the assurance that what they're buying is what it says it is.
yeah,
So
yeah. Fabulous. Now, moving on to a little bit more about winter and immune systems. I guess the purpose of this was really to support people with some easy to implement information that they could just jump onto straight away. It's not hard. So, what are the best veggies, or what are your favorite ones that you're using at the moment in your family to help boost your immune system and support your body?
so your immune system is directly related to your gut health.
Yeah,
So everything starts in the gut. So when we look at it from that perspective, my first point of call is to eat easy to digest foods. So that's a lot of, to keep it simple, lots of cooked vegetables. Root vegetables are fantastic. I know a lot of people are scared of carbohydrates and they get scared of sugars, but
mm,
our bodies need lots of nourishment in winter. We really do.
yeah,
And so I love the root vegetables. And to spice it up, just digestive spices, like thinking things like ginger, cumin, fennel, basil, coriander, just adding some spices to your food. It makes it tasty, it makes it interesting, but it also helps your digestion. So if you look at your digestion as fire, so in Ayurvedic terms, they call it digestive fire. If you've got a fire in your belly and that's your digestive system, you want to add things on there that are going to keep the fire alive. So if you put something that's really hard to digest, like a big fat log, onto a fire, it puts it out. So foods like pasta and dairy and all the things that the body takes a long time to get through, I would be avoiding those and adding in lots of cooked vegetables. And I actually avoid all cold foods altogether. So no cold drinks, definitely no cold drinks. And eating foods directly out of the fridge, if you can avoid that. So salads are not something that I would actually eat
mm,
in winter.
winter.
It's all about your warming foods, nice soups and broths and cooked vegetables, lots of fats, good fats. Um, yeah, so your body can just absorb it and be nourished really easily.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And one of the things that I always say to people, because I'm conscious about the journey of the gut, is that with oats in particular, to always soak the oats. So that's my number one tip for everybody, because most of our customers have gut problems, and if they want to have an introduced oats into their diet, make sure they do the old-fashioned way of soaking their oats. And for me, it's just so much easier for my gut to process the oats. I don't get that rumbly tummy. And it's a good way to introduce those oats to your diet.
Absolutely. And another thing as well, and it's such a good breakfast in winter. But at the beginning of the year, I experienced the worst food poisoning. I was hospitalized a couple of times. My stomach was
Oh,
completely torn apart. It very bad. And so I've just been spending the last 6 months rebuilding. And what I've done is gone back to some ancient grains like millet and quinoa, and then gradually combining it with oats. So bringing oats back into the system.
Yeah.
So if people do have a weaker digestion for whatever reason, it's nice to just sometimes you can start with a combination rather than just full oats, combine it, and then it's a little bit easier to digest, and then people can start changing it to what they like. That's what I've done.
Yeah. And during winter, and it doesn't have to be oats, what is your favorite breakfast that you guys have down in your camp?
So from a health perspective and a digestion perspective, I have what I just described there with like stewed apples. However, you have to be really careful with stewing apples. Okay. It's really important to stew them a lot. If you don't, they actually can cause gas in some people, and like really bad gas, which can lead people to think it's the oats when actually it's the apple. So just being careful with that, making sure that it's very heavily stewed, and some digestive spices. I have a nourishing digestive spice blend that I use, but you can use cardamom, cinnamon, a little bit of ginger, a little bit of fennel if you're a bit creative. But if I wanted to do something a little bit special, I love simple buttery organic eggs on a piece of sourdough. That's probably a Sunday special. Not something I'd have all the time, but simplicity is my most favorite thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all coming back to that. And I'm just going to come into a landing. So what is your number one wellness tip that you could share with our listeners just to wind this up?
During winter? I would say keeping your foods cooked with warm liquids and listening to your body with rest. So rest is a time it feels like you may not be doing anything if you're resting, especially if you're a driven human like me, but you actually are. Resting is crucial, and it happens in nature, and you cannot force it. You cannot force a crop. You cannot force anything, and we're the same. So rest.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will pop some links in the comments below so people can find you, find your website, find your programs. So make sure we've got all that right, and I'll link people across to you if they want to talk to you further about some of the fabulous information that you have in there. Well, I've been following you for a while, so I just know that it's a great source of information. So thank you. I'm sorry to hear that you are unwell, but I know you have the tools to get yourself back on track, and everything happens for a reason, so you can use that to help others.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you. I've loved this chat. It's been great.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I've learned a lot. And thanks everybody for joining. Please pop in the comments below whether you're on replay, and if you have any questions for Anika, she will be around to answer them. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.